Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Senior Vice President of Strategic Content for the Channel Company, Robert DeMarzo.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? All right, my voice is starting to go. I am going to make it short and sweet because I want to provide as much time for today's session as possible. It's going to be a little TED-like in here for the next hour. You've got a jam-packed day of keynotes, tech symposiums, certainly boardrooms and other activities. But we have a very special treat for you this morning. Coming up in just a few minutes, Bob Faletra, the CEO of the Channel Company, and a few special friends and guests are going to talk about selling in the new cloud era. How many folks out there, by a show of hands, are interested in how to accelerate and grow their sales in this new cloud era? Absolutely. Yeah, nice wave out there. Appreciate that. Many of you know Bob as the former editor of CRN, certainly one of the most powerful editors in the technology business. Bob is leading our organization today. He was an editor. He's now a consultant to vendors and solution providers, a thought leader, channel advocate. I don't think there's anybody that has spent more time in the channel or dedicated an entire career to moving the channel forward and really being a very strong and opinionated, Bob, advocate for the channel. He led our spinoff from UBM, so we are an independent company, so Bob is really driving the business, owning the P&L, and doing one heck of a job. And I always love his Brooklyn accent as well. He's a fellow Brooklynite. But that said, I think you're going to enjoy Bob's perspective on selling in the new cloud era as he helps you move your businesses forward and grow. Like I said, going to keep it short and sweet and turn this over to Mr. Faletra and his special guests. Please welcome to the stage Bob Faletra and his special guests, who he will introduce. Come on. Come on. I know it's early. That's better.
This discussion is really around sales now and the new way to sell in the world of managed services and cloud services. We've talked a lot about how important marketing is over the past couple of 3 years, I think. We just did a big study on sales and what's actually happening in the market, some of which, and I can't show all of the slides here today. We're going to talk about some of the bigger points that we've seen. Some of it confirms, I think, what we already thought, right? There are more people involved in the process, but who that is might be a little bit of an eye-opener. What's happening before things actually get into place. If I got a clicker up here, yes I do, right? What's happening in the process? How does it get started? Who do you need to think about as you're going into the market and trying to find new customers? You've heard us talk about how we believe in the new world you're going to need twice the number of customers than you have in the past in order to generate enough cash flow to keep the business healthy until you cross that chasm where things are really moving to the point where, all right, I'm in a new business. So certainly, you know, we think that there's more stakeholders, and some of the reaction is partners need to have a strong differentiation and visibility. That's part of the marketing thing. You need to know what your position statement is in the market. What are you going to tell the customers? What differentiates you than everybody else? We're finding a lot of pre-research that's being done in the market. So there's a lot of, before you get a reach out, before a vendor gets a reach out, before certainly a solution provider gets a reach out from a customer, a bluebird, so to speak, a lot of research has already been done. And we see these large service providers that are coming in and saying, hey, look, we've got a methodology. You might want to think about adopting it. So let me first start by asking each of our panel members to just tell a little bit about your business, who you are, and then we're going to get into some discussion here.
Sure. So I'm Michael Harwood. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing for Sirius Computer Solutions. We've been in business since 1980. We really started out as a solution integrator focused on infrastructure. And we realized a while back that we needed to diversify. And cloud is just that next evolution. We've got a lot invested in our MSP practice, our selling our manufacturers' cloud solutions. So it's definitely big, and it's very important to our survival.
How much of your business is recurring revenue now?
Oh gosh, we do about 1.3 billion a year, and I would say about 400 million or so is recurring.
A nice chunk. Is that it, Michael?
Between cloud and between cloud and maintenance.
Yep.
Cliff? Cliff Swayze, Innovative Integration. We are Indianapolis-based, also started as a SI, infrastructure integration partner. About 6 years ago, spun up a managed service practice. We're at about 30–40% of our income being recurring now.
Jason Wright, I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Techcess Group. We're an MSP based out of Houston, Texas. We've been in business since 2004, always been a managed services play. We were essentially a run rate or recurring revenue model right from the get-go. We started out with a traditional managed services practice, your help desk, service support, network monitoring, those type of services. And then in 2008, we had the good fortune of getting in on the ground floor of the whole cloud computing revolution and started our own private infrastructure as a service offering. And that's been very successful for us. So we've probably got about 5,000 devices under management. We're roughly 85% a run rate business. 70% of that is cloud, which for us they're 3-year contracts, even 4-year contracts in some cases. So we're having a really good year this year. We've got about 110,000 in net new recurring revenue booked year to date. So I'm
So
hoping
life is good, Jason.
So I could probably sandbag the next couple of months.
Yeah. All right. So one of the as this slide shows, one of the things that we're really seeing is this kind of self-driven research. And if you dive a little bit deeper into the data, it tells you that it's not being done exclusively by the IT department. Line of business is involved. The IT is increasingly have some level of responsibility to the CFO, if not reporting into the CFO. So CFO may not be a decision maker or a researcher early in the process, but they certainly can throw a monkey wrench in this thing if you can't justify the ROI. And to me, one of the more interesting things here that we're seeing is the solution providers' marketing materials are as important now as the vendors, which to me was a real eye-opener, right? Because we've always felt that, hey, we don't market very well in the channel. Vendors do a pretty good job of it. That's all they've got a lot of resources to put behind it. But the customers are actually looking for the materials from you. So are you seeing this kind of self-driven research ahead of time, and what are you doing about it? Do you feel like you've got the right marketing materials? Is that a focus for all of you?
Sure, absolutely. Like it says, over 60% of the research is being done up front. It's being done by the customers on their own. And our information, our marketing material to our clients is extremely important to get the message out about who we are, how we differentiate ourselves, because again, we started out as a solution integrator, and we have to rebrand ourselves to not be that hardware provider, right? To be their cloud consultant. So we're very consultative to our clients, and so that kind of feeds into that one that's right between the top and the second group, which is they are looking to consultants for guidance. And we provide, I think we really provide that triangulated message out to our clients, because there are so many different options for them. There's so many cloud providers coming up there, and they are looking for somebody to help them make the right decision.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Michael nailed it about the who. We were discussing some of this last night. One of the things, it used to be all about the relationship. You were a trusted advisor, especially old integration guys, and then they looked to you to say what is out there. Vendors supplied the marketing materials, so all we had to do was, we were relationship guys. Now, look at the statistics of self-driven research. They're determining what before they ever decide on a who, and often it's not the original people that we had the relationship with. It's purchasing. It's not just a CIO or CTO. There's admins bringing things in, and so our marketing material is more important now because we're now having to sell ourselves on top of selling the product.
Yeah, 2 points, Bob. So first, you talked about the CFO and kind of that decision-making process. We had an event in Houston a couple of months ago. Basically, a C-suite panel was put together of CFOs from mid-market companies, and the whole room was service providers, and basically asking them, how do the service providers get in the door? How do they get access to you? And to your point, Bob, one of the first things they said is, don't come straight to me. You know, go through the proper channels within our organization. If it's through the IT person, or if it's through the chief marketing officer who's actually making a lot of the IT decisions nowadays. But, you know, don't feel like you got to supersede somebody to get to me first. And the other big thing, and don't miss this, is referrals. You know, whether you get, you know, come to them through some affinity group, networking group, you get referred in by somebody else. That was a big deal for them, because like Ginger Kelly's breakout presentation, she talked about, you know, 60% of the research is being done up front, and a lot of the old sales methodologies don't necessarily apply anymore. I agree with that in one respect, but on the other side, all of us still work off of referrals, and that's still critical. That's your best way into the C-suite. And secondarily, when you talk about the marketing materials, I've had a good opportunity to talk to a lot of the guys in the room, and one of the best things we ever did, kind of like you did, Michael, 3 years ago, we rebranded our company, and the first thing we did was a 90-day assessment where we gave a third-party access to all our customer base, and basically, you know, had them go out and talk about where are we missing the bar, what are they not getting in a service engagement with us, where do they pit our strengths versus weaknesses, versus where do we see our strengths and weaknesses. And it was an invaluable process. And basically, with the data that we got out of that, we created a sales playbook, and it just infused it with all types of differentiation material, a lot of process, a lot of dashboarding metrics, reporting, and all this type of stuff. And to Gary Pica's point, we paint a picture for the customer. We don't even leave marketing material behind, but we go in and we talk about, here's how I'm going to onboard you, and then here's how we're going to do the gap analysis and deep dive work, what it's going to mean to you, and ultimately we're telling the customer, here's how.
So realize that not everybody's going to catch on to this new sales methodology. So a little bit of retraining. There's some guys who are going to get it, some guys who aren't. And you also need to bring in people who can help support them. You know, technical people, inside sales people, sales specialist people who can you know, help with some of that heavy lifting that the traditional infrastructure guys may not be that.
So let's talk a little bit about that kind of sales process, because, you know, a lot of the data came back and said, look, we're not actually investing in a lot of new salespeople. We're trying to retrain them, and in some cases bring in some new people who have a different skill set. It's not a wholesale out with the old, in with the new, but what have you done there from a sales perspective in terms of people? Are you bringing in new ones? Have you retrained? Is there a lot of effort going into that training process? And did you have to reach out for some different skills?
Yes, so we really started with, and you know, we didn't do it perfectly either. We fumbled a little here and there. I think we started with too many cloud offerings, and we had to kind of whittle it back a little bit to make sure that our salespeople had something that they could grasp onto.
Yep. Something
that they felt comfortable that, hey, this is something I can sell. It's concrete and I can sell that. But it required some retraining of them. We did internal training. We utilized our vendors to help do some of the training. But we also, like I said, we utilized our technical reps to help support our sales folks, you know, and we needed to retrain them on the solutions, the client's pain points. How do I talk to a CFO in a healthcare environment?
Did you get outside help to do that training?
Yeah, a lot from the manufacturers.
Yeah.
Okay, and or vendors.
Right.
But we also talk to our customers too. They're a great resource, and when you've got a good customer base and you've got a good relationship with them, they're willing to give you the feedback on what you need to do differently. And some of our best customers have given us some great feedback there.
Yep. Cliff?
We also, you know, tried to do a lot of the sales training, different methodology training, but one of the things it caused us to do, honestly, was look for external influences for marketing and lead generation and appointment setting campaigns that we'd never done before. We always had that relationship mentality, and where, you know, you own the customer relationship. And now, to be honest, with managed services, I mean, you know, we got a room full of fantastic MSPs here. It's a land grab. You know, I can offer services in your area, you can offer in mine. So many of them, because it's done remotely. So there's a lot of people offering the same things out there. Cost of sell, in many cases, is it's too expensive using the traditional model with today's marketplace, and you know, offering the managed services.
What you're saying, though, really says the sales team has got to be closer to the customer than they ever were. Otherwise, they're going to get disintermediated.
The sales team has to be closer. You're exactly right, but it's all about them maintaining that relationship.
Yeah.
But it's too expensive to have them out there finding all the leads. Initial opportunity follow-up. Now all that's changed. We got to spend this quantity. It's a quantity play versus just a quality relationship.
Yep. Jason, any thoughts around this?
Yeah. So Cliff hit on a really good point. I mean, my team is a third of the size it was this time last year, so we're definitely not trying to add revenue simply as a multiple of headcount.
Yep.
I think the key thing that we're doing in line with what Cliff said is we don't want to, we want to take the guys that are already really good sales guys and try and spend more time and effort and money and marketing dollars in lead generation. So we're investing in marketing automation. We're doing a lot of thought leadership, seminars. We're doing a lot of automated marketing, drip marketing, that kind of thing, to make sure we're handling the lead nurturing, so that we can take the guys that have already proven to be successful and keep them more busy, more in front of the customers. So we're, you know, we've had a lot of challenges. I think to Michael's point, we also have simplified things. You know, we were quick to jump into different service areas and then realized, hey, this is not our core business, and we pulled back. So in some cases, you're even doing a disservice to your sales team if at the executive level your strategies aren't aligned with really your corporate values.
So Jason, can you talk a little bit about your sales methodology? Because I know you feel like that really has been a driver of the business and helped quite a bit. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, when we say marketing materials, we don't actually even leave any marketing materials behind. My CEO used to kind of sell that way. He would always leave slicks and one-pagers behind, and for years he's going, how do you sell without using marketing material? We have that playbook. I mean, for us, it's a very diligent qualification process. I call it going for the no. We go in to meet with customers almost looking for a reason not to do business with them, and once everything's eliminated, then I know it's a qualified prospect. We are vertically focused. We've got 4 specific market verticals that we focus on, and then we have a very stringent 5-point sales process, you know, going from first appointment and then going into the qualification. We do demos and tours, proposal delivery. And what you're doing all along that process, you're selling all along the way. So if you go to the first appointment and then the guy doesn't want to engage with you on an assessment, well, there you go. You know how qualified it is. Or if you can't get them to come in your office, that's one of my big things with the sales guys. If you can't get somebody to come kick tires, if they won't come visit your operation, no matter how small it is, you know, they should be willing to come in and engage with you and see how you're doing. And even down to, you know, when we use the playbook, we have very specific whiteboarding strategies. And ultimately what that's done for us is we've raised our prices 4 times since we've rebranded. So our all-in seat price has almost doubled from 3 years ago. And then when on the cloud, you know, we have some cloud customers we're selling as much as $250, $275 a seat when you have cloud and you layer the managed services. Because again, the whole superpower philosophy, when they feel like you're their consultant and you've infused all this value in, you know, you do the financial impact analysis modeling and show them their IT expenses, then you really gain their trust.
Cliff, what do you guys do? Sales methodology, is something you're still trying to figure out? And
we are. It's constantly evolving. We spend a lot of time with existing customers and trying to, you know, look at areas that we're not currently working with them, and then how can we start shifting some of those, you know, infrastructure turnkey project type partners into a managed offering of some sort, or start moving things to the cloud for them. You know, we're big virtualization guys who work in a large enterprise shop that's so siloed with some of our customers. They only know us as the virtualization guys, or they only know us as the storage guys. So in order to gain that trust to say, you know, hey, we can be your outsourced IT, we can provide these managed services, we have to meet and develop relationships in other areas across the company.
Have you got a separate sales team to sell the managed services versus the traditional? No.
No.
From the get-go, that's what you decided you're going to keep the same. You're going to sell everything.
Again, Bob, I've made every mistake possible trying to shift to the managed services platform. So I didn't say it was a good process. I said it was.
No, I don't think you're unlike a lot of folks, right? I mean, even the data will tell us most of them don't have a separate division. Michael, you the same way, or how have you done it?
Yes and no. So our traditional sellers, client executives, can sell our cloud solutions, they can sell our MSP offerings, but we also have folks who are dedicated to that. We call them sales specialists, okay? And it depends on what the capabilities of the CE is, whether, you know, that's something he can start up and deliver on his own, or he needs to engage somebody else, one of these specialists, or the specialist can go in and prospect and do their selling on their own, okay? You know, the other thing that we found is a challenge in our sales methodologies. You know, we do the normal marketing to try to get leads to our sellers, but you know, making sure that they understand who to talk to, what the pain points are that the clients have, and then you know, one of the first things that we want to offer them is a service to find out, is cloud for them, because it's not for everybody. And second, what type of cloud environment is right for them? Is it hybrid? Is it private, or is it a public cloud environment? And it's really different for each customer's own use case, and it requires consultative services. So we really rely on our services organization a lot in that.
So what are you guys doing on sales compensation? Because that's always a big issue, right? It's probably the #1 thing you've got to kind of get right, although it still seems to be something that has to change quite a bit. Sell a cloud deployment, they get paid the value of the entire contract up front. And if they don't, right, I don't know that they do or they don't with you, if they don't, will they tend to want to still sell a more of a turnkey solution, give me the big check because I'm getting a big check?
Yes, so, you know, that was definitely a challenge coming from where we were being a solution integrator. You know, you sold a solution, you got paid up front, right? And getting our sellers used to and comfortable with an annuity stream was a little bit of a different take on that. I'm not going to get all my money up front. You know, and I think we really needed to start with our top sellers. We know they're going to be here for a long time, and get them comfortable with this annuity stream payment. I don't want to go into exactly how we pay, but we do pay over the period of the managed services or the cloud agreement rather than paying all up front. Okay? And because we
Well, give me the advantage. Why do you think that's an advantage
Okay.
doing it that way?
Yeah, so it's a cash flow issue for the company, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But second, it also helps get the sellers comfortable that, I've got this, no matter what I sell in the future, I'm going to get something paid for what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
Rather than it's an all or nothing. I could have a great year as an infrastructure seller, and next year could be a horrible year.
Yeah.
But if I get used to selling these annuities,
Yeah.
then maybe my next year's not going to be so bad as it might have been.
Right.
But have you, I mean, with your organization doing it that way, have you found that some of your sales guys start to sit back after a while? I mean, if they're constantly getting that annuity income, and just like you said, maybe my goal's not that hard to obtain next year because I already have this stream coming in.
Yeah, you've got to build in a lot of annuity to get comfortable with just sitting back and doing nothing. I mean, Jason is his primary seller, right? You've got 2 guys, so what are you running into?
We pay real nice. We're kind of similar to you guys in the sense that we pay a percentage of revenue, and we pay a good part of that up front, and then we pay on renewals. So that, and you asked what the advantage was of that, Bob. For us, it's retention. They build up that annuity stream, and they're much more likely to stay with us. They're not going to leave for the next best offer. Some people do it as a multiple of gross margin. We do it on revenue. We like to do it that way. We run a very operationally mature company, so our profit margins are where they need to be, so we don't mind paying on revenue. And the way that we acquire the technology up front, there's not a huge capex.
So do you think you have it right, or are you continuing to adjust it every year?
We haven't. No, we've had the same model since I've been there 5 years. It's the same model we've always had, and so it's worked really well for us.
Yeah. Huh.
We've changed ours a couple times now, from the core to we added a compensation piece for the managed services because our guys do sell both. And then we've kind of evolved that into quota attainment, added a quota attainment.
Well, for you guys, it's more complicated when you're making a transition. If you're starting this new world, it's a little bit easier. Like Jason, really, you guys are 100%, right? Yeah. It gets more complicated, right?
Yeah.
So sales pipeline and sales time to get actually a deal done, is that increased in the new world, or is it declining in the new world?
I guess my observation has been it's not much different. Yeah, it just really, it could be quicker in many cases, especially if the client's doing a lot of the research up front and they know what they want.
Yeah.
It's us helping them to determine, is that really the right thing for them? So it could go a lot quicker. It all depends on the situation.
Yeah. Can you guys talk a little bit about, one of the interesting things about this transition is the politics of selling it inside of an organization. There are some IT departments that are not inclined to want to kind of outsource service, go to the services, because it means taking people out of their system in some cases. Now the CFO probably likes that idea, right? Fewer people means the ability to do things differently and move things off of a capex to an operating expenditure. How difficult is it to maneuver through these organizations? Are you doing anything kind of different there? Talking to IT and line of business at the same time? How do you kind of manage that? You don't want to piss off the IT department because they're still very influential, always will be, but there's probably a need to kind of get in deeper.
Yeah, it's definitely a tightrope that you have to walk, that our sellers have to walk. But I think it's really based on how strong their relationship with the client is. Yeah. And it's not us necessarily pushing the cloud opportunity. It's also coming from internal. So they know that they've got to look at different options, what's best for the company, and they're being pulled by either their committee or their CFO or whoever's making these decisions. So it's really just ensuring you've got a strong relationship with them and engaging both parties and keeping everybody informed.
I think, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, part of the qualification process for us is really critical. So one of the things we do is we look for customers who have already outsourced, who are coming out of, potentially bad marriage and are willing to pay more of a value add. That also, lessens the sales cycle, right? Because typically they want to get out of that marriage pretty quick. So, you know, we don't want the guys who are looking to outsource for the first time. It's usually more of a cost-driven decision. The other thing is, and I see this mistake made by a lot of sales guys, they want to oversell. You know, don't be afraid to just get a foot in the door. You know, I've got 3 or 4 clients that come to mind right now that we bill more than $25,000 a month, which are big, good contracts for us, that started out billing $1,200 a month or $1,500 a month. We got one service in, and then we built a relationship, we earned their trust, and then they just start throwing stuff at you. So, you know, you don't want to go into, exactly to your point, Michael, they're not always ready for the cloud. Go in, do a server management engagement, and then go back, do the deep dive assessment in the roadmap and show them how they can get there, and that's a good strategy for us.
It's no wonder this guy's always in a good mood. They started a managed service. They only go after people that are already outsourced. Oh, you're living the dream, man. For us, I mean, these are all great points, but, you know, Michael was talking about the relationship, how strong the relationship has to be, and, you know, the other piece is who is the relationship that you have. Yeah. A lot of our infrastructure projects, there's a lot of time spent with the network admins, the administrators, or the admin managers. You start having a managed service conversation with those guys that's never outsourced before, they start being concerned about their jobs. So we have to get really creative at that point and say things like, no, this would allow you more time to be strategic in your role because we're going to outsource the day-to-day, you know, operations of your department.
Yeah. Budget inside of the organization, is the budget being spread out, do you think, between line of business versus IT? IT have its own budget, which tends to be maintenance, and line of business has got the new budget, or are you still seeing it kind of controlled?
I see a mix. I see some organizations where it still all rolls up to IT. I see some organizations that are, you know, they're growing with the times as well, and they're, you know, they're investing in each of the areas. They have their own.
So what do you
budgets.
think the trend is going? What do you think, a couple, 3 years out, what do you think happens here?
I would say just Michael's guess that, yeah, you'll see more budgets that are being, you know, dispersed throughout the organization.
Yeah. Jason, you think that's true?
Yeah, I think the key there is you have to help educate. They all have budgets. There's line of business budgets, you know, and we're seeing more autonomy within those line of business leaders to do what they need to do with those budgets. But I think the key is you gotta help them understand opportunity costs and lost opportunity costs, and also work out the ROI and TCO models. You know, the main thing is, used to be years ago when we were selling big systems before managed services and cloud, everything was project based. You could show an ROI over 2, 3, 4 years and that be acceptable. Nowadays, they want to see an immediate ROI, the CFO, or you're not getting a second meeting. Yeah.
Well, Jason, Cliff, Michael, I want to thank you all. Great panel, great discussion. Appreciate the time. Bobby, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That was good, and I think you provided a great transition for our next speaker. How about a nice round of applause for our panelists and Bob Faletra, the CEO of the Channel Company. Bob, as always, has got some great research and insight, good conversation.